St. Mark's Square in the heart of Venice. Usually this place is teeming with thousands of people gathered here. Now there's no one. No one.
Kein Mensch.
A deathly hush has descended on the city with its world-famous canals. Everything is closed for the foreseeable future. The tourists have left, and Venice's residents are heeding the strict lockdown imposed on Italy since March 8th. Most of the time, cameraman Marco, Polo and I find ourselves completely alone in the city's maze of alleyways. Normally, the crowds here make it difficult to cross the Rialto Bridge. Now, I stand alone by the Grand Canal, the city's main thoroughfare. We can tell from the packaging that these are boxes of medicines that are being unloaded here. The supply chain for the pharmacies appears to be working. They are still open. The delivery workers let us film them, but they don't want to be interviewed. So we move on. The few others we come across give us a wide berth. Somehow in this difficult situation, it doesn't seem appropriate to confront them with a camera and a microphone. What we're experiencing is extraordinary, fascinating, but a bit frightening at the same time. We've obtained special permits from the mayor and completed the self-declaration forms required of all Italians when they travel. Otherwise, we wouldn't be allowed to be here at all. Luckily, our encounter with the carabinieri passes off without incident. We're filming it secretly with a cell phone.
Do you have a film permit?
Yes, we've got approval from the mayor's office.
Here are the documents. The press office has also been informed.
And that's your self-declaration form?
Yes.
Okay, then you can carry on.
Close to the Rialto Bridge is the city's fish market. Normally it's packed with vendors. Now there are just a few. Many fishmongers wonder how they're going to survive economically. Sales have collapsed. The few customers who do come here buy 2 or 3 fish, if that. The fish sellers earn their money from the restaurants and hotels that buy in bulk, but they are all closed.
I haven't experienced anything like it in the last 35 years that I've worked here. We have never been hit so hard, not by the floods or other catastrophes. We Venetians are tough, but we have never seen anything like this. We just don't know how to react and how to stay healthy.
Many people have lost their jobs. They're at home without work. These are difficult times.
We head for Bergamo, in the region of Lombardy, 230 kilometers west of Venice, an epicenter of the coronavirus in Europe. We want to know why COVID-19 has infected and killed so many people in Lombardy. For us too, it's hazardous to enter this quarantined area. We decide not to take any risks We have our disinfectant, masks and gloves at the ready. At the time we filmed, in mid to late March, close to 10,000 people had already been admitted for hospital treatment in the province of Lombardy. By the first week of April, the number of reported cases in the region would reach nearly 55,000. With its population of 120,000 people, the city of Bergamo, along with its outlying areas, is Lombardy's most important commercial centre after Milan. Our journey takes us to the historic centre of Bergamo, which is perched on a hill called Bergamo Alta. Here too, most of the businesses and stores are closed. The alleys are deserted, as they were in Venice. There are just a few people, standing a safe distance away from one another, waiting patiently outside the pharmacy. In the Piazza Vecchia, the square at the heart of the old town, we meet Marcello Minaudi, who runs the Café del Tasso. The cafe dates back to 1476, and the only time that it has had to close for such long periods was during wartime. But Marcello is an optimist. He says now the main thing is to be there for one another and pull together.
We will open the cafe as soon as everything is over here, and the entire family will do their bit, including him. And step by step, we'll begin again. I hope very much that everyone will be buoyed by this optimism, including the government. They've really done everything possible and are doing a pretty good job. Prime Minister Conte and all the others. It's an exceptional situation, very, very difficult.
Marcello asks whether we've already had a coffee. As everywhere is closed, including the motorway service stations, we gladly accept his invitation. Just off Piazza Vecchia is the terminal for the funicular railway that runs between Bergamo and Bergamo Alta. The newspaper kiosk inside is open. Can I see the daily newspaper, please?
Here you are.
Are there many obituaries?
Yes, unfortunately, we're living with a serious threat.
And are you afraid?
Yes.
Why are there so many deaths in Bergamo in particular?
There is no logical official explanation. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that Bergamo is a hub for the region close to the Alps and is connected to Milan. When you add 1 and 2 together, you end up caught in this vicious circle. No, look again. There are more pages.
Due, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wahnsinn!
Crazy.
Incredibile. Campo di battaglia.
It's a battlefield.
On the northeastern outskirts of Bergamo lies the village of Casnigo. There's a home for retirees here. We set off to find out how the situation is developing in such care homes. The health and care system in Lombardy, one of Italy's richest regions, fares well in international comparison. Emanuele Bertacchi is waiting in the courtyard. We're not allowed to film the facility, either inside or on the outside. The situation for residents and carers is very grave.
You still have some time. Beware. This is like a war. Stay at home, all of you. No one should be out and about. In particular, the elderly are at great risk. There have been many, many deaths. The figures are much higher than is generally known. You still have a few days reprieve. But I repeat, stay at home. The situation here is very, very serious. I don't want to spread panic, but please get the old people into isolation. Avoid any contact, because for them, the situation is much worse than it seemed. Here, it's like being at war.
Back in Bergamo, the city hospital is out of bounds. In front of the building, there are huge additional oxygen tanks. The hospital's own facility can no longer supply anywhere near enough oxygen to run the many ventilators needed for the coronavirus patients.
So this is the
Papa San Giovanni Hospital, named for Pope John XXIII. One of the biggest hospitals and really the center of the corona infections. You could almost say Europe's coronavirus hotspot. We're not allowed to film in the hospital. We meet the director of the pediatric department, Lorenzo D'Antiga, in the foyer. We conduct the interview outside. Like the rest of the staff, Dr. D'Antiga has been working almost round the clock for weeks now. Many doctors and nurses have contracted the virus and are unable to work. Patients in isolation wards are also separated from their loved ones.
For the devout, it's an extremely difficult situation. Not being able to be with their loved ones in their final hours and not being able to have a funeral with a priest is a very painful experience.
The virus hits old people the hardest. The head pediatrician says that's why the situation in care homes is particularly precarious.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of dead here, and not just here in the hospital, but also elsewhere. There are many elderly people living in their own homes in the villages around Bergamo, or in the valleys in the Alpine foothills. A lot of them are dying at the moment, and we're convinced that they are dying from coronavirus. But because they're not being taken to the hospital, there is no diagnosis.
According to statistics, in Italy the vast majority of deaths from COVID-19 occur in people over the age of 60. Most of them had one or several pre-existing conditions. One good piece of news about the virus, says the doctor, is that children are extremely unlikely to be severely affected.
The children are a case in particular. They can get infected, but the illness isn't very serious. That's definitely good news for the families with small children. But you shouldn't forget one important aspect. The children who have been infected pass on the infection. It's crucial to realize that. You can infect adults without showing any sign of symptoms yourself.
It's an almost 3-hour drive from Bergamo to Bolzano. As all the hotels are shut, we can't dally. One advantage of the lockdown is that the roads are largely clear and we made good progress. Even around busy hubs like Verona, where there are usually kilometre-long traffic jams. In Bolzano, the capital of the largely German-speaking province of Alto Adige, pickups with loudspeakers are urging people to stay inside for health reasons. A lot is being done here to stop the spread of the virus. Overnight, the roads, pavements and bus stops are being cleaned and decontaminated with water and hydrogen peroxide.
We think it has some effect. A lot of people walk on the streets. A few spit. There are animals running around. Illnesses can get passed on like that. We believe that we have to reach a zero infection point. We want to rule out the chance that the road, the ground, is a source of infection.
The cleaning liquid is said to be harmless to the environment. We also ask whether this is really meant to just reassure the city's residents. A symbolic act.
No, it's not just about the psychological effect. Let's be clear on this. Citizens still have to stick to all the regulations, and they shouldn't think that the streets are clean now and the problem with the virus is solved. No way. It just makes a small contribution. Nothing more.
Next day at home with our cameraman Marco. To hear from the doctor in Lombardy that his 3 sons are not at acute risk from the virus is reassuring. The boys are working on exercises that their school has sent via email. Some work can also be done on the computer together with mother Silvia.
+1 ist gleich 5.
4.
Bravo. +0 ist gleich 3.
1. 3.
Bravo. +5.
Since the lockdown was imposed, Silvia has spent most of her time at home with the boys. As a software programmer, she also has to work from home. Recently, the Italian government tightened up the lockdown, banning walks outside. Anyone violating those rules faces a fine of €2,000 and criminal charges. From time to time, the Polo family sit outside the house at the entrance to their small garden, just for a change of scene.
Zu Hause habe ich überhaupt keine Angst.
At home, I'm not scared at all. But I would be if I were in the city. I hold my breath when people walk past and then breathe out when they've passed by. I'm fed up with this virus. I want to go back to kindergarten.
Every day, without fail, the family sit down together to watch the evening news on Italian TV. The statistics in Alto Adige also paint a worrying picture. In the next 2 weeks, the family will learn that the number infected has more than doubled, with more than 4 times the number of deaths. The economic situation is also dramatic. Some 7,600 businesses have been forced to close in the northern Italian province. In Vipiteno, shortly before the Brenner Pass, one company has been able to avoid having to put their employees on reduced hours or give them notice. Peter Trenkwalder and his team came up with a new business idea overnight. The 20-strong team is now constructing protective shields from plexiglass and metal. As these products are intended to protect people from the new coronavirus, hygiene is being taken very seriously. At first, it wasn't clear whether the product would sell.
No, we're not giving up. We're making these protective panels and going from door to door with them. Many banks and stores have snatched them up. We've seen that many people need them. We switch production from one day to the next. We've posted our product on social media and seen that there's a demand.
In the meantime, the production hall has been almost totally refitted with new machines and materials. It's a mammoth task and a real achievement.
Of course it's a big change, and we are really pushing the envelope. But we are a great team. We are sticking to the rules, we have protective suits, and I hope that this crisis will be over at some point. And if all the others out there stick together like we have, then they will also survive this crisis.
There are enough orders to keep the company busy for the next few weeks, and the jobs here are secure, for the time being at least.
It was 1/3 luck, 1/3 team effort, and 1/3 the absolute will to survive. That's what motivated us. That's what made the difference. 5 days ago, the business was completely different. A classic small blue-collar firm, warts and all. Today, we're talking about hygiene, risk management. There's the plan that lists what people have to do and when. One has to provide food, the other the supply of materials. Each is concentrating on their role, nothing else.
The tourist resort of Tirolo, perched above the spa town of Merano, is also deserted. Right next to the village's care home is general practitioner Eugen Sleiter's practice. First of all, he provides us with fresh face masks and stresses just how important protective measures are for people in the health or care sectors who work with old people.
When I arrive at the practice, I try to put on an entire new set of clothes. I change here. When I get home, I again change out of the clothes that I only wore for traveling between work and home. I take off my shoes outside the door. I try to keep to the highest standards of hygiene, to keep external contact down to a minimum for those at home and for my patients.
Dr. Sleiter takes us on a quick tour to show us the situation in the care home in Tirolo. The safety measures are strict, with additional restrictions of movement within the home itself.
We have closed all the communal rooms and stopped all group activities. We have tried to isolate each floor. So if we did have someone who tests positive, the other floors would be in quarantine and protected.
We're now in the communal rooms. It's empty.
The residents are all on the floors above us. Normally this is a happy place, with people playing cards and eating coffee and cake, carers organizing games. Yes, this is unfortunately the sad reality.
The next day, outside the main hospital in Bolzano. Here there are also special measures in place. In the control tent in front of the building, everyone entering the hospital is first tested for the coronavirus. Right by the side of that is the region's Italian White Cross Control Center. The relief organization has set up its own task force for the transport of people infected with COVID-19. Before we go to speak to the White Cross and ask the volunteers how things are with their ambulance services, the doctor has told us to put on gloves. The head of the coronavirus Taskforce in Bolzano is PADOVAN. She has been employed by the White Cross for 11 years. She says she has never experienced a situation like this.
Capitato più volte.
Unfortunately, we have been picking up a lot of patients who, although they can still walk and breathe on their own in the morning, by evening we have to rush them to an intensive care unit.
In the afternoon, we get a message from a doctor in Bergamo. He says the situation has deteriorated over the last few days. This time we decide to carry out our interview by Skype to avoid any possibility of infection. Like Dr. Dantiga, Dr. Lorenzo Norsa also works in the Papa Giovanni Hospital in Bergamo.
I think the message that goes for us all, for the whole of Europe, is all of us, we doctors too, need to keep our distance from our families. If everyone in Europe does that, then, at some point, this will be over. And then we'll have a lot of time again to spend together and to hug each other just like we did in the past. But for now, we must stay at home in self-isolation, because that's the only option we have to stop the spread of the virus in Europe.
Optimism and solidarity are what's important now, even if an end to the crisis is not in sight. While the curve of new infections appears to be flattening out, it's still unclear when the country will be able to return to normality. When I first saw the photo in social media, I thought it was a fake. But it's true, the water is a lot clearer than usual. And you don't hear a sound either. It's almost eerie. Now and then you hear a child crying, but nothing apart from that. Unbelievable. If something positive has come out of this crisis, then it is the cleaner water in Venice's canals. And who knows, maybe the Venetians will also miss the peace and quiet when all of this is over.